You've probably heard the term polar vortex on the news, especially during the heart of winter when temperatures plummet and headlines warn of record-breaking cold. It's a phrase that seems to pop up every year, sparking curiosity and sometimes even a bit of fear. But what exactly is the polar vortex, and why does it matter so much to our weather? Usually the term comes up when extreme cold is in the forecast, and people are bracing for icy winds and heavy snowfall. But the polar vortex isn't just a buzzword, it's a real powerful force in our atmosphere that shapes winter weather across the northern hemisphere. So, what is it? Imagine a gigantic, invisible whirlpool of frigid air spinning high above the Arctic, circling the North Pole like a frozen crown. This pool of cold air is trapped in the stratosphere, about 10 to 30 miles above the Earth's surface, and is held in place by a powerful jet of winds that swirl around it in a counterclockwise direction. When the polar vortex is stable and strong, it acts like a fortress, keeping the coldest air locked up far to the north, away from most of the United States, Canada, and Europe. The Arctic remains frigid, but the rest of us are spared the worst of its chill. But sometimes, this fortress weakens or becomes unstable. The winds that hold the vortex together can slow down or become wobbly, causing the cold air to spill out. When this happens, the polar vortex can stretch, split, or even break apart, sending tons of Arctic air surging southward into areas that aren't used to such extreme cold. This is when we experience those sudden, bone-chilling cold snaps, when temperatures drop dramatically, and cities far from the Arctic find themselves in the grip of winter's icy hand. The Midwest, Northeast, and even parts of the South can be plunged into deep freezes, sometimes with little warning. Think of the polar vortex like a dam holding back a reservoir of icy water. As long as the dam is strong, the cold stays put. But if the dam cracks or weakens, that frigid air floods south, overwhelming cities and towns with snow, ice, and dangerously low temperatures. One of the main triggers for a disrupted polar vortex is a phenomenon called sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW. This event happens when temperatures in the stratosphere rise rapidly, sometimes by more than 50 degrees Fahrenheit in just a few days. This sudden warming throws the polar vortex off balance, causing it to weaken, split, or even reverse direction, unleashing a wave of Arctic air that can last for weeks and affect millions of people. These disruptions are the main drivers behind some of the most historic and memorable winters on record. Think of blizzards that paralyze cities, record snowfalls, and cold snaps that shatter decades-old temperature records. So, the next time you hear about the polar vortex in the news, remember it's not just a headline, it's the powerful force behind the cold, snow, and wild winter weather that can transform daily life across huge parts of the country. Understanding how the polar vortex works helps explain why forecasters are predicting a colder, snowier winter for much of the nation this year. By keeping an eye on the polar vortex, scientists can give us a heads up about what's coming, helping us prepare for whatever winter has in store. So, what's in store for winter 2025-2026? This season is shaping up to be one of the most memorable in recent years, with weather patterns aligning for a dramatic shift from what many have grown used to. If you're hoping for a mild winter, you might want to brace yourself, because the outlook is anything but gentle. In short, expect colder and snowier conditions than average, especially as the season kicks off. Early winter storms could arrive with a vengeance, blanketing neighborhoods and cities in deep snow, and transforming familiar landscapes into winter wonderlands. For many, this will mean more shoveling, more icy commutes, and more time spent bundling up. The main drivers behind this forecast are a weak to moderate La Niña and a significant polar vortex disruption. These classic ingredients are known to unleash powerful Arctic air outbreaks, sending frigid temperatures plunging far south. Meteorologists are watching these patterns closely, as they often signal a season of frequent and intense winter weather events. Persistent cold is expected from December through January, stretching from the Midwest to the East Coast, and even reaching deep into the South. Cities that rarely see significant snow could be in for a surprise, as cold air lingers and snowstorms become more common than usual. The jet stream will take a pronounced dip to the south, creating a superhighway for frigid Arctic air. This setup will also fuel an active storm track, increasing the likelihood of back-to-back winter storms and making travel hazardous at times. Cities like Chicago, Boston, and even Atlanta could experience intense, long-lasting cold snaps and major snow events. For some, this could mean record-breaking snowfall totals and extended periods of below-freezing temperatures. The key takeaway: prepare for a true old-fashioned winter. December and January are likely to bring the most severe conditions, with heavy snow, biting winds, and dangerously low temperatures. Make sure your home, car, and wardrobe are ready for what's ahead. While February may finally offer some relief, as temperatures begin to moderate, and snow starts to melt, the early part of the season looks formidable. Stay tuned for updates, and get ready for a winter that will be talked about for years to come. What's really behind this winter's relentless cold and wild weather? The answer lies high above us, in the upper layers of our atmosphere, where powerful forces are at play. Each year, meteorologists search for the spark that ignites the season's most extreme conditions. This year, all eyes are on a dramatic atmospheric event that's rewriting the script for winter across North America. The phenomenon is called sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW. It's a rare but powerful event that can flip winter weather patterns upside down, often with little warning. During an SSW, temperatures in the stratosphere above the Arctic can rise by as much as 50 degrees Fahrenheit in just a few days. This rapid warming disrupts the polar vortex, a swirling mass of cold air that usually stays locked over the North Pole, causing it to weaken and break apart. When this happens, frigid Arctic air escapes and surges southward, bringing bitter cold to regions far below. This year, the SSW arrived early, striking in late November 2025. That timing is crucial. An early SSW means its disruptive effects will linger, shaping the entire heart of winter and making cold snaps more frequent and severe. As the polar vortex weakens, the jet stream, the high-altitude river of wind that steers weather systems, begins to buckle and twist. This allows Arctic air to plunge deep into North America, reaching places that might otherwise escape the worst of winter's chill. Imagine a figure skater spinning gracefully, then suddenly flinging their arms out. The spin becomes unstable, unpredictable, and wild. That's what happens to our weather when the polar vortex is disrupted by an SSW. History tells us that early SSWs often precede some of the most memorable cold outbreaks. In 1958 and 2000, similar events led to record-breaking freezes and snowstorms, leaving a lasting mark on those winters. This year, meteorologists are closely tracking the SSW, convinced it will be the main driver of our winter weather. It's not just about cold temperatures, it's about the mobility of that cold sweeping unpredictably from region to region. The result? A chain reaction of frigid air, heavy snow, and dangerous ice stretching across much of the United States. Cities and towns from the Midwest to the East Coast are bracing for repeated waves of winter storms. Think of the SSW as the first domino in a long line. Once it tips, it sets off a cascade of wild weather events, blizzards, icy roads, and snowdrifts, reshaping the season for millions. That's why meteorologists are sounding the alarm now, urging everyone to prepare for a severe and unpredictable winter ahead. The culprit behind the cold is here, and its effects are only just beginning. December will kick off with a powerful blast of Arctic air, thanks to the disrupted polar vortex. Expect temperatures well below normal, not just in the north, but deep into the central and eastern U.S. A cross-polar flow will funnel Siberian air straight into North America, raising the odds of a white Christmas for many. The Midwest and Northeast are prime targets, with cities facing temperatures 20–30 degrees below average. January will keep the cold coming, reinforcing snowpack and making it tough for milder air to break through. Even the south faces the threat of damaging freezes, with agriculture and infrastructure at risk. The stage is set for a relentless, high-impact winter across much of the country. Where will the snow pile up? The Northeast and I-95 corridor are in the bullseye for major nor'easters, big storms fueled by Atlantic moisture and Arctic air. The Great Lakes will see intense lake-effect snow, with cities like Buffalo and Cleveland bracing for relentless snow bands. The Ohio Valley and Central Appalachians will be battlegrounds for heavy snow and ice as Arctic air clashes with Gulf moisture. Even the South could see rare snow and ice events, as we saw in January 2025. La Niña's active southern jet stream will feed these storms, increasing their punch. Residents from Tennessee to northern Georgia should be ready for winter weather they're not used to. This winter, snow could fall, and stick, where it's least expected. How do we know all this? It's thanks to powerful computer weather models. The American GFS and European ECMWF models crunch global data to simulate the atmosphere and spot patterns weeks in advance. This year, both models agree, a deep eastern trough and a cold, stormy setup for the US. But for specific storms, models can differ. Tiny shifts mean big changes in snow totals. That's why forecasts evolve as storms approach and more data comes in. Models help us see the big picture and warn of major events early, but they're not perfect. Stay tuned for updates as the season unfolds. Details matter, especially with a volatile pattern like this. The overall message, trust the trend, but check the daily forecast. How does this winter compare to the past? Recent history offers clues. In January 2025, a polar vortex event brought blizzard warnings to the Gulf Coast, proof that Arctic air can reach unexpected places. The setup this year is similar. A disrupted vortex and active southern storm track. For the Northeast and Midwest, it recalls the brutal winter of 2013-2014, with relentless cold and record snow. These past events show what's possible when the polar vortex goes wild. Widespread cold, energy strain and travel chaos. The lesson: this forecast isn't just theory, it's a real risk, and preparation matters. History reminds us to take a severe winter seriously. How does a cold, snowy winter fit into a warming world? The answer is complicated. Winters are warming overall, but rapid Arctic changes may actually make the polar vortex more unstable, leading to wild swings. A weaker, wavier jet stream can unleash more frequent cold outbreaks, even as average temperatures rise. Warmer air also holds more moisture, so when it does snow, storms can be bigger and more disruptive. The future may bring fewer snow days, but more blockbuster storms, when conditions align. One cold winter doesn't disprove climate change. It's part of a shifting, unpredictable pattern. We're seeing less consistent cold, but more extremes, hot and cold alike. The bottom line: be ready for surprises as the climate evolves. With a severe winter ahead, preparation is key. Stock up on essentials, blankets, batteries, food, and water. For home and car, stay off the roads during storms, and dress in layers to prevent frostbite and hypothermia. Check on vulnerable neighbors and relatives. Community matters in tough weather. Looking ahead, models suggest a possible warm-up in February as the polar vortex recovers, but cold snaps can still happen. For now, focus on the next 2 months. This is when the worst is likely. Stay informed with local forecasts and take precautions early. Get your snow gear ready. Winter is coming in strong.